Hello, my name is Penny, and as usual I'm here to talk about some bookish things. Specifically today we're here to try and plan my reading for May. I'm doing a lot of readathons this month, or at least I've planned to do a lot of readathons. I am actually feeling a little bit burnt out from the magical readathon of April, but May's a new month. We'll try to get back into things. So as far as readathons go, I'll leave all the details down below, but I'm going to try and do the Asian readathon, which I will post a separate TBR for. I'm also going to try and do Bookemon Badgathon at the start of the month, and then at the end of the month I want to try and do Borrowathon. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go through the books that I've got out from the library and the books that I have to read as my own personal challenge to get down my physical TBR, and then we'll see how we can match those up with the badges from the Bookemon Badgathon readathon. So I've got a lot of books out from the library, but there are two that are due back in the first couple of weeks, so I'm just going to talk about those ones. The first one is this hefter. I don't know, I had this moment where I was like, I really need to just get on with reading more Brandon Sanderson books, and so I put a hold on this at the library and it came through, and so I've got this 1,000-page chunker to read, and I don't even really know, it's Brandon Sanderson, so it'll have some kind of twisty, convoluted, plot twisty storyline with an amazing magic system. I believe the magic system in this is magic swords. I don't really know. It's a massive, like, it's going to be a 10-book series of massive books like this, so it's time to get started. 998 pages. This I think will count for the fantastical badge to read a book in the fantasy genre, because this is fantasy, of course. So that will be one badge if I can manage to get through it. It's due back, so I need to get through it. And the other book that I have that's due back on the same day is The Girl in the Tower by Elizabeth Arden. I'm bad at her name, I don't know why. So this is the sequel to The Bear and the Nightingale. It's like a retelling of some Russian folklore. In the first story we follow Vasya as she deals with the conflict between the Christian faith and her ability to see these mythological Russian creatures. So I am excited to read this, but it is also fairly long, not quite 1,000 pages, but still pretty long. This one, I'm pretty sure that I can count it for historical fiction, because I did look it up on Goodreads and it does say one of the genres is historical fiction, even though it's also fantasy. So then I'll be able to count this for the archival badge in the Bookemon Badgathon. I do have another couple of books out from the library, but I'm going to talk about them in my Asian Readathon TBR, so I won't talk about them now unless we end up deciding we need them for some badges. So the thing I've been trying to do every month is from my physical TBR, I read the shortest book, the longest book, the lowest rated, and the highest rated. So we're going to do that again. The first one I have here is the shortest book, and that's The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. It's kind of a classic. Ooh, it would be good if I could count it for the classics badge. Is it a classic though? Probably a stretch. I think I have another book for the classic badge. I am going to count it for the Jester badge, which is to read a book that is humor/comedy genre. This book basically follows this guy, Arthur Dent, who discovers that the Earth is about to be destroyed for some intergalactic highway, and he ends up traveling the universe, the galaxy, and learning a lot about it. I loved the 70s TV show version of this. I watched it when I was a teen and I loved it, so I'm hoping I will love the book. Then to go with that, I also have the longest book on my TBR. Now this isn't quite the longest book on my TBR, but the first 5 long books on my TBR at the moment are all part of the series, so I'm reading them in order, as you do. So this is the second book of the Crown of Stars series by Kate Elliott. This is Prince of Dogs. I just finished King's Dragon a few days ago. And it took a bit to get into because it was also a chunker, but once I got into it, I'm really attached to the characters, and now that I know who the Prince of Dogs is, I'm so excited to read this one and find out what's going on. This is basically an epic fantasy. You've got people fighting over the throne, but you've also got dark magic and elves and just all sorts of mysterious magical stuff happening. It's also got a really interesting religion, so I'll be reading the next one of this for sure. this month. I say for sure, but like that pile's already looking massive and it's only got 4 books on it. Anyway, that book, I'm not really sure which badge we can fit it under, because we've already taken, this is the problem with me reading a lot of fantasy, we've already taken the fantasy badge. As far as I can tell, I don't think it fits into any of them, but if I'm lucky, it'll turn out to have LGBT rep, or I don't think it's gonna fit for diversity, but that's a shame, but I need to read that anyway. Then we have the lowest rated and the highest rated books. So the lowest rated book on my TBR is Soundless by Rochelle Mead. So this is an Asian inspired fantasy where no one in her village has ever been able to hear, and now they start to lose their sight, and so main character is trying to work out what's happening with that, I guess. There was, when it first came out, there was quite a lot of talk about it on BookTube, but then it kind of died off, and I think it got a few bad reviews, hence why it's probably the lowest rated on my TBR, but we're going to read it anyway. This one can count for the diversity badge because we do have a main character who is a person of color, although it is written by an author that is not a person of color, so it's not own voices, and it's not really even reality. It's Asian inspired, but you know, we're gonna count it for the diversity badge because I don't really know what else we could count it for. Then lastly, we've got the highest rated book on my TBR, which is one that I picked up recently from a secondhand shop, and that is The Painted Man by Peter V. Brett. A lot of people rave about this series, so I'm excited to read it. I don't even really know what it's about. Something about demons and magic. I like demons and magic, so that's good. Again, this is fantasy, so I don't know that I can put it against another badge unless it turns out to be dark enough that I can argue that it's horror, but I don't think so. So that's a shame. So a couple of those there that I don't think I'll be able to get badges for, but okay, so already there we have about 3,000 pages to read, which is about how much I can read physically, and I do want to still add some other physical books for the Asian Readathon and Borrowathon. So that's a problem, but we haven't covered all the Bookemon Badgathon badges yet, but it's okay, because I do have a bunch of audiobooks here that we might be able to help ourselves with. So the first one I've started reading just today, and that is The Brain Fog Fix by Dr. Mike Dow, which is a book. I started it mostly so far, it seems to be about nutrition, but basically about how you can make your brain work better. So this one I will be able to count it for the know-it-all badge, which is to read a book which is in the non-fiction genre. And I also have 2 audiobooks here that go together. I have these on my physical TBR, so that's a bonus. That is The Girl Who Played with Fire and The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest by Stieg Larsson. I read The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo just last month, so I'm excited to continue the story. And these ones will be able to fit under the Chiller badge to read a book that's in the crime, thriller, mystery, suspense genre, because these are like crime, investigation, mystery stories, or at least the first one was, so I assume the rest are. And I guess since there's 2 books there, I could also count one of them for being the Amour badge, read a book that's in the romance contemporary genre, because actually this is contemporary as well, but that might be a stretch. I might try and come up with something better. The next audiobook I have here is When Women Ruled the World. I actually put a hold on this a while back because of the Buzzword Readathon, trying to find books with when, but it sounds really interesting. It's a book about strong women that have ruled in the past, I think primarily like Egyptian women. But I've already taken up something for the non-fiction badge, so, although, depending on how it goes, it might be able to count that for the memory badge, read a book that is in the biography memoir genre, because we can argue that, like, it's a memoir of the queens of Egypt. I'll read it and I'll see if I can make that argument. The next one that I have here, I have so many audiobooks out at the moment. I am kind of crazy. What I keep doing lately is, because I know I've already got so many physical books to read on my TBR, it means I don't really have time to read any new books in physical form. So what I keep doing is every time I hear a booktuber talk about a new book that I'm interested in, or any newish book that I'm interested in, I check to see if it's in Libby, and I just put a hold on it, and then I end up with a lot of books. So that's what happened with this next one. Someone reminded me about Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Neuvel. Is that how you say it? Probably not. So it's like a science fiction novel about a girl who, I think when she's really young, finds this giant foot. I think it's a giant hand, and then gets involved in investigating what's up with this giant hand that seems like it couldn't have been made on Earth. So that I can put for the scientific badge to read a book that is in the science fiction genre. Then I have so many audiobooks. The next audiobook I have is The Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater. I love Maggie Stiefvater, and I've seen a few people talking about this lately, so it's good to read some of Maggie Stiefvater's backlist. I don't even know what this one's about. It's a fantasy story though, so don't think I'm going to be able to put it against a different badge. Then I also have Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. So Becca in the books, and some other people have been talking about Rebecca lately. I believe it's like a thriller type story, but it's also a classic. So we can use this for the exemplary badge to read a book that's in the classics genre. I don't really even know what exactly happens. I did, like Becca talked about it, but I've forgotten, but it sounded interesting at the time, so I'm excited to read it. Then I have a couple more non-fiction ones. So I have 13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do by Amy Morin, and also The Evolution of Beauty by Richard O. Prum. Both these books are really short books, so they should be really quick listens, and again, they don't fit under any of these badges that I haven't already ticked off. And then lastly, I have Eragon by Christopher Paolini. I actually put a hold on this for the Magical Readathon, and then I never got to it. So I will listen to that. That's like a dragon fantasy story. As I said in my last TBR, I don't remember what it's about, even though I've watched the movie, which is good, because that means by watching the movie I haven't spoiled myself for the book, because I don't remember it. There are some benefits to having a bad memory. So that is all my audiobooks. Do I have any holds that are coming through soon? Yes, I do. The first hold I have is actually like the group book for Team Mystics. I am Team Mystic. And that is The Devouring Grey by Christine Lynn Herman. I believe this is a story where there's a town and the descendants of the founders all have different powers, and they have to come back to the town to fight this like fog thing. All these synopses I'm just getting from like vague things I've heard people say. Who knows if it's true? Better to listen to my wrap up, then I'll have way better synopses. Maybe. So that's due in 2 weeks, so I should be able to listen to it this month. I'd like to listen to it during the main readathon period, but we'll see whether it comes through, because it's been saying coming in 2 weeks for quite a long time now. And I don't actually think any of these other audiobooks I have on hold are going to come through in the next month, even though some of them say they might. I don't believe them. So lastly, let's just have a quick little look at the badges we haven't covered and see whether I might be able to easily cover them, given that I've already got 3,000 pages to read and 50 million audiobooks to read. The first one is the creative badge, which is to read a book that is in the art or music genre. Now what I might do for that is during Borrowathon, borrow an art book from my sister, because they are pretty quick to go through and like inspiring. So we'll see what we can get for that. What else didn't I cover? Oh, the pictorial badge, which is to read a comic, graphic novel, manga. So for that, I do actually have this book here, Everyone's an Alien When You're an Alien Too. This book I'm going to read for the Asian Readathon, so that will be good. This is just a story about an alien who comes to Earth and like cute things happen. I saw a few people talking about it lately and saying that it was really heartwarming and beautiful, so I'm excited to read that. And that'll cover another badge. So the Amour badge, which was to read a book that's in the romance contemporary genre. I was trying to fudge that, to be honest. I don't often read romance, but I've just thought of something. So for Asian Readathon, I did borrow some manga from my brother, who has a big selection. I borrowed a few. I'll talk more about them in the Asian Readathon TBR, but one of the ones I got is this My Love Story, which I assume is a romance, so that can count for the Amor badge. The Rainbow badge. I'm really hoping that some of the books I've picked here have some kind of representation for LGBT stuff, but I don't know. Because I find fantasy books aren't always as explicit about it as like contemporary books, and I don't really like to read contemporary books. I don't like contemporary that much, but I think it would be kind of shit if that's the only badge I don't get. So I will, if I don't in all these books. Oh, although maybe. I mean, is there a chance that Death Note counts as horror? If Death Note counts as horror, I have borrowed that from my brother too, so that might count. Otherwise, I think all the horror books that are on my physical TBR are like hefty and not the kind of books I want to read this month when I've already got some hefty ones. So we'll see about the horror badge. Also, the other one that I'm struggling with is the prose badge. No, poetry / play. I do have this book of poems, So Sylvia Plath by Ariel, but I put this on my TBR a while ago. And whenever I read poetry books, I just like to spend a real long time reading the poems and thinking about them, and like, you know, in The Labyrinth, how at the start Sarah is off in the park reading her play and like pretending it's real. That's how I like to read poetry, and it's quite time consuming. So even though this is a really short book, when I try to read it, it's honestly just takes me forever. So I could try to fit this in, but I just don't think that's gonna happen. And then lastly, the diversity badge, which I said I would cover, but I think with my Asian Readathon books, I should be able to cover it better than the books from my main TBR. So I feel like that was a really confusing and unclear and scattered TBR, but hopefully it gives you an idea of some of the books I'm wanting to read, and maybe also you heard about some books that you haven't heard about before, which personally is why I like to watch TBRs. So I'd like that to be what my TBRs provide to you who is watching. If you are doing Bookemon Badgathon or any of the other readathons that I mentioned, the Asian Readathon or the Borrowathon, then comment down below. I will be posting a separate Asian Readathon TBR and maybe vlogging Borrowathon, to be honest. So check back in if those are things that would interest you. Otherwise, I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.